Hello and welcome back to my channel. The topic for today's presentation is menstrual cycle. Now, menstrual cycle is a periodic cycle which occurs after every 28 to 30 days in primate mammals including human females. Now, the onset of menstrual cycle is marked by a period which is known as menarche, whereas the menstrual cycle ceases at menopause, which is different for different females and is approximately 50 years of age. The menstrual cycle occurs because of the changes in hormone levels of that of pituitary, which include LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. This is accompanied by changes in ovarian hormones that are estrogen, ES, and progesterone, PR. There are different phases of the menstrual cycle which are listed as follows. The first one is known as menstruation phase, in which bleeding occurs. It starts from day 1 and lasts till day 5 or 7. It is followed by proliferative phase or follicular phase, which is in turn followed by ovulatory phase. In the ovulatory phase, ovulation occurs, that is, the release of egg from the ovary into the fallopian tube. The ovulatory phase is followed by luteal phase or secretory phase. At the end of the secretory phase, the menstruation phase starts again. So, menstrual cycle is a periodic cycle which starts from one menstruation phase and ends at another menstruation phase. This table shows you different phases and events which occur in menstrual cycle. The first column shares with you the different phases of menstrual cycle, which include menstruation phase from day 1 to 5, proliferative or follicular phase from day 6 to 13 or 14, ovulatory phase at day 14 or 15 of the menstrual cycle, luteal or secretory phase from day 15 to 28 to 29. The first row in turn shows you the different events in ovary and uterus and the different hormone levels of ovary and pituitary. Now, in the menstruation phase, the egg which was waiting for fertilization to take place in the fallopian tube starts to degenerate because fertilization didn't take place. Simultaneously, the endometrium, which is the innermost lining of the uterus, degenerates, resulting in bleeding. In the menstruation phase, the ovarian hormones and pituitary hormones are in their basal levels. This is followed by proliferative or follicular phase, which lasts from day 6 to 14. It is known as proliferative phase because the endometrium, which has been degenerated in the menstruation phase, starts to regenerate here. Now, this phase is known as follicular phase because in the ovary, follicles mature from primary to Graafian. For the maturation of follicles from primary to Graafian, a hormone named follicle stimulating hormone is required. So, the level of FSH increases. So, this is like this. FSH increases, it acts on follicles, follicles mature, and then they in turn release estrogen. The third phase is ovulatory phase. Ovulatory phase is marked by ovulation. That is, the Graafian follicle ruptures to release secondary oocyte or egg into the fallopian tube. For ovulation to take place, LH should be at its peak. This is known as LH surge. So it is like this. LH surge results in ovulation, which results in thickening of endometrium. This is followed by luteal or secretory phase. It is known as luteal phase because the remnants of the Graafian follicle forms a yellow-colored body which is known as corpus luteum. It is known as secretory phase because this corpus luteum is required for the release of progesterone. Progesterone is pregnancy hormone which results in continuous thickening of endometrium. Now, this continuous thickening of endometrium is required for implantation to take place if fertilization ever happens. In the second half of the luteal phase, if fertilization is not taken place, corpus luteum starts to degenerate. This results in lowering of progesterone in the blood. Lowering of progesterone stimulates the endometrium to degenerate. Now, endometrium is not degenerated in luteal or secretory phase, it is just stimulated. The end of luteal phase then marks again the beginning of another menstruation phase. Now this table is concomitant with the graph. Now this shows the menstruation phase, which lasts from day 1 to day 5. It is accompanied by menses or bleeding. The ovarian hormones are on their basal levels, and the pituitary hormones are also on their basal levels. This is followed by follicular or proliferative phase, in which regeneration of the endometrium takes place, estrogen increases, progesterone is still in its basal level, and follicles are maturing from primary to mature, that is Raphian follicle. LH is also increasing in its level. Day 14 to 15 is known as ovulatory phase, in which ovulation occurs, in which Graafian follicle ruptures to release the egg. For this, LH surge is required. This is followed by luteal or secretory phase. In the first half of the luteal phase, the remnants of the Graafian follicle forms a yellow-colored body which is known as corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is required for the release of a hormone which is known as progesterone. This progesterone is involved in continuous thickening of the endometrium. At the end of the luteal phase, if fertilization is not taking place, corpus luteum degenerates. This results in lowering of progesterone, and the endometrium is now stimulated to degenerate. The end of this marks the onset of next cycle. Here we complete the menstrual cycle. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.